So the demon said, okay, fine. You know what? I don't really feel like killing anybody today. Today was supposed to be my self-care day. Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name's Leanna if you're new, and welcome to episode 22 of Makeup and Mythology, a series on my channel where I do my makeup and also tell you an ancient myth. Last week I covered the Welsh myth / legend of Prince Pwyll of a place called Dyfed and how he came to marry Rhiannon, a goddess / mystical being associated with horses. I think it's my longest Makeup and Mythology episode so far. I really enjoyed the story. I hadn't known about any other Welsh myths and stories, so it was really interesting to read about. So if you didn't see that episode, feel free to check it out. This week we are covering another Chinese myth. I think it's actually more of a folktale, and that is the one of the long-haired girl. Now, I had so much trouble researching the story because it is just like super obscure. The only sources that I could find on the internet were like cartoons and like stop motion animations, and they were like all in Chinese, so my research was a little bit limited, especially considering that my Chinese is not good. Now, I know the story because I grew up hearing it and also watching one of those aforementioned Chinese cartoons, but if you ask me like what region of China it's from or like the origins of the story, I'm at a complete loss. However, let us not allow that to tarnish today's storytelling experience. Let's get started. So in a far-off land, there's a mountain called Mount Dogao. It is absolutely grand and ethereal, as if from a mystical world, surrounded by lush greenery and life. And on that mountain there is a beautiful, sparkling waterfall that looks like the very long hair of a maiden with silver locks. Long ago, that waterfall wasn't there, and the land around Mount Dogao was very dry and very barren, because in that region, rain was scarce. The people who lived in this region had very little food and water, and were only able to survive by traveling long distances each and every day to collect water. In this region, there was a village, and in this village lived a girl who had very long, luscious black hair. Hair so long that it reached her ankles, and her name was Chang, and that translates to long-haired girl. Her parents named her long-haired girl. Imagine if this was like a widespread strategy that parents actually used though. Like, what if you named your kid the smart girl? That kid would literally have no other choice except to be smart. So yeah, she was the long-haired girl. Doesn't leave her much choice. You know what it probably was? That was just her nickname in the village because she had really long hair, and that's just what everybody called her. I feel like when you have really long hair, I feel like that's all people notice. It's just like, oh, it's the girl with the long hair, you know? I've heard a lot of women talk about that, like when they had long hair, that was like a really big part of their identity. Anyway, at home, the long-haired girl had her ailing mother to take care of, and she was the one who went out and harvested food and got waters from miles away. One day when she was out collecting water, she came across a dying tree, and she took pity on it and said, "Oh, why don't we give you a bit of water? You look like you need it." Honestly, any logical person hearing this story would think that this part was really dumb. Why would you give your water to a tree if water is so scarce, you know? But it's supposed to show that she's kind and compassionate to all living things, you know, even if they're not human. And this is actually a pretty significant thing that she does that comes into play in the story later. But I don't know, man, if I was her and water was scarce and I had an ailing mother to take care of at home, I'm not just gonna dump my water in the ground to give it to a tree, you know? But okay, that's her life, that's her prerogative. But yeah, it's good that she did that because it propelled the plot forward. Right afterward, as if by some magic, the tree grew luscious green leaves immediately, and it spoke to her. It said, "Thank you, long-haired girl." Now, I don't know about you, but if a motherfucking tree spoke to me, I would be terrified, but she was chilling. She was like, "You're welcome, tree. I'm glad you're looking better. Green's a great color on you." So right after this, she looks into the distance and sees Mount Dogao, and it's like low-key sparkling. It's like sparkling in the sunshine. It's gorgeous. It just looked so grand, and she suddenly had this inclination to go check it out, to see if there was anything growing up there. So she went, and after she climbed up a certain distance, she saw something that surprised her. Right on the side of the mountain, she saw a patch of the greenest green leaves growing there, and it caught her eye. And she realized that this patch of green was the top part of the fattest, juiciest carrot she had ever seen in her life. Like, I'm talking as big as her head. It was a fat-ass carrot. And so she's like, ooh, perfect. We've got dinner tonight. So she's pulling on it, and finally it comes out. And when she pulled it out, a stream of fresh water came spraying out of the hole. Of course, seeing this, the long-haired girl was overjoyed. So she dropped the carrot to the ground, because fuck the carrot, there's water, and tried to drink. But as soon as she let go of the carrot, as if by magic, flew back into the hole and butt-plugged that shit right up. Well, that was strange, she thought, but she pulled on the carrot again, determined to drink some water before she went home. So she pulled it out again, the stream of water came out again. She held onto the carrot and drank to her heart's content, thinking about how she was going to tell all the villagers about a new source of water. Their suffering would be over. Suddenly, a big gust of wind and smoke came over her, and she found herself transported into a mountain cave. In that cave, there was a demon who demanded to know who told her about the waterfall, to which she responded indignantly. "Nobody told me. I found it myself." "Don't lie," he said. "I'm telling the truth," she insisted. So the demon said, "Okay, fine. You know what? I don't really feel like killing anybody today. Today was supposed to be my self-care day. So, you know what? You can keep drinking here. I don't care. I don't give a fuck. But you better not tell anybody else, or else I will kill you." So in some versions of the story, the demon is actually a god, specifically the god of thunder. And as for why he was so stingy about his water and, like, keeping it a secret and stuff, I don't know, man. Like, people are dying. Like, why don't you just share? I guess it could be interpreted as him trying to ensure the trials and tribulations of mortals and stuff, because in a lot of myths, that's what the gods are there for, to make sure that the humans are suffering and learning stuff, that life is hard and worship is good. He's literally just like keeping all his water to himself. Like, people are dying, but he doesn't even care. It's like you have the power to end suffering and it would like cost you almost nothing, but you just don't. So after this, in yet another big gust of wind and smoke, the long-haired girl is transported back outside the cave, and she goes home. She goes back to the village, all the while thinking about what this demon/god told her not to do. That night, she didn't sleep. She stayed up all night stressing about what she should do, and because she was so stressed, her beautiful head of dark, luscious hair turned completely white overnight. And now she was a very trendy platinum blonde. All in one session, too. Hairdressers all over the world hate her. Actually, this was ancient China, so white hair bad. White hair means she was really, really stressed. So yeah, she was really stressed, you know, because if she didn't tell anybody and decided to preserve herself, then everybody else would suffer. But if she did tell everybody, then she would die. So it was a tough decision. But it's not hard to guess what she did, because she is such a hero. After an entire night of pondering, she had finally come to a decision. She burst out of the front doors of her house and ran down the street, shouting at the top of her lungs, "There's a waterfall on top of Mount Dokao. There's a waterfall there. All you have to do is pull out the carrot and there'll be water." She chose to sacrifice herself. So she led a whole bunch of villagers up there to that exact spot, and she pulled the carrot out. And just like she said, a waterfall came falling out of the hole. I feel like there has to be better syntax for describing this instead of the phrase falling out of the hole. Splashing out of the hole. Streaming out of the hole. I can't avoid saying hole. Like, a carrot plugging up the hole, like, it's not just me, is it? Maybe I'm just really immature. So when she pulled out the carrot this time, she destroyed it by smashing it into pieces on the ground, and the villagers used their axes to make the hole bigger so that there was more water falling out of the hole. Just as the villagers were cheering and rejoicing about their newfound source of water, a big gust of wind and smoke takes the long-haired girl back into that mountain cave with the demon. Dun dun dun. "How dare you tell everyone?" the demon demanded to know. "Have you forgotten what I said already? Aren't you afraid to die?" "Of course I remember," she shouted back at him, "but I'm not afraid to die if it means saving everybody else." The demon was like low-key kind of shook. So he was like, "Fine, if you're not afraid of death, I'll give you a much worse punishment. You're going to lay under that waterfall and you're going to have that cold, rushing water run over your body for 1,000 years. No, 10,000 years. So dramatic. And the long-haired girl, already prepared for the worst, accepted her punishment. So she said, "Fine, but you have to let me go home and see my mother first." If you didn't know this about ancient Chinese culture, filial piety was a really, really, really big thing. You know, my parents are very traditional, and they do stress that we have to be pious to our elders and stuff. So, you know, that aspect of Chinese culture has been very prominent in my life, at least. But, you know, it is definitely less intense than it probably was back in ancient times, so I'm lucky that I'm not an ancient Chinese lady. If my parents chose a really ugly dude for me to marry, I wouldn't even get to say no. So that sounds like it would suck. So anyway, what was I talking about? Right, so the long-haired girl wanted to go back home and say goodbye to her mother. And because filial piety was a really, really big thing, the demon was like, "Sure, okay, fine. I'll grant you this one thing." A Western demon probably would have been like, "What the fuck, bitch? No, you can't go see your mom. You have to go lay under that waterfall right now." But an Eastern demon, of course, is like, "Sure, you can like go see your parents or whatever." I feel like this is a pretty common theme across a lot of different Chinese folk tales. Like, main character is about to undergo some sort of like retribution, punishment, and the punisher allows allows them to like see their parents one last time or something. But yeah, the demon was like, okay, yeah, you can go see your mom, but if you don't come back, I'm gonna kill everybody. I'm gonna kill all the villagers, I'm gonna hunt you down, I'm gonna kill you, and I'm gonna kill all the villagers, and I'm gonna kill your mom, and I'm gonna kill everybody. And then nobody will get to have water. Like, damn, okay, we get it. So she went on her way to say goodbye to her mom one last time. And if you remember earlier where she watered that dead tree, well, on her way back, she passed that tree, and as she walked past that tree, a mysterious old man with green hair appeared before her and called out to her. And I think he was the tree spirit. So he said, "Long-haired girl, you are very kind. You help others, so I want to help you." And she was like, "What? How?" With a wave of his hand, the green-haired old man magicked a rock sculpture bearing her exact likeness, except for one thing. It didn't have her hair. The old man said, "This rock sculpture will replace you underneath the waterfall for tens of thousands of years. All I need is your hair." And she was like, okay. And in one fell swoop, she took off all her hair and pasted it onto the rock sculpture. The resemblance was uncanny. It was perfect. It looked exactly like her. So the old man waved his hands and transported the sculpture underneath the waterfall. And the demon, seeing this, thought it was her and was none the wiser. To be fair to the demon though, there were some adaptations that said he didn't fall for the trick and actually came out and like they fought and like she defeated him and everything. But I like the one where he was dumb and didn't know better. So yeah, I guess the demon let everybody keep the water, which was nice. So from then on, the village was no longer barren, for they now had a plentiful source of water. When the long-haired girl got home that day, she felt that her head was really itchy, and in an instant, by some magic, she grew a new head of long, luscious black hair that reached her ankles. The end. What was the moral of today's story, you ask? Well, something something compassion, something something sacrifice. Or if you see a dead tree, give it some water because it might turn into an old man who will very specifically help you when you need a rock replica of yourself. Okay, so that is it for today. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!